When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Warning, creators of this game do understand the subject matter may be offensive to some, but they do honor the families and people that have been affected by these real-life tragedies that these individuals have caused. Want to play a game?
Oh, yeah!
Lover of true crime?
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, we got an interesting game for you to check out.
Wow.
With the mashup of influences such as horror movies, collecting cards, and RPGs.
What?
Led to giving birth to an incredible creation of this game, Killers, the card game.
You are all my children now.
This game is a collectible trading card game featuring some of the most infamous killers, with tidbits of trivia on the back of each card to help you learn some insight to each criminal.
Who the hell are you?
Let's not forget, during the game, cops will be chasing you and these criminals.
I'm a cop, you idiot!
However, check out their website listed through all social media today, which can be found under Killers, the card game.
Am I on the internet?
I want to play a game.
Hey, I'm David Beck, filmmaker, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest is part of a unique film that is very topical in today's society. And I say that because it touches on many different topics that you hear about in the news, online, many different avenues, but it touches on things like transgender, LGBTQ plus communities, and many other subtopics within these categories. But the movie is called Regarding Us. And just to give a little brief description of it, it is where this teacher loses her teaching career in the Catholic school system, and as a transgender woman has a profound impact as the movie goes along of a couple children, one whose father is in a little strife and a recent transplant from a conservative household. When the children form a unique bond, new questions and old prejudices erupt. Like I said, the film is called Regarding Us, and today I'm joined with co-writer, co-director, and he acted in the film as well, Mr. David Beck. David, how are you, sir?
Hi, Jonathan. I'm doing great. How are you?
I can't complain. So, obviously, let's start with the movie because there's a lot to dive into. And
Great.
where, first and foremost, did you come up with the concept as a co-writer and everything else? Where did the idea and seeds start with this particular project?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we started writing it. My co-writer, Jennifer Bobby, so she's a trans actress and comedian. And I myself am, a gay man. I'm a, stage dramatic actor. And I've been writing films for about 10 years. And I met Jennifer actually working on a project about 7 years ago, a web series. And I just fell in love with her as an actor and an artist, and she really interpreted my words so well because she's a comedian, she understood the innate humor within the drama, because I love movies that can make you laugh and cry at the same time. That's my jam, and I think this movie definitely does that. And so I knew I wanted to write a piece with her, and so I wrote a short film called Backup Plan, which is actually the end of the first act of this feature. So the short film that we did and it played in festivals in 2019 was the inspiration. We didn't have the Catholic piece. She wasn't a Catholic school teacher. She was just a teacher at a charter school. But I went to Catholic school for 13 years, so I knew that if we were ever gonna make it a full length feature, I knew that I wanted her to be a Catholic school teacher, because you hear about it all the time in the news. Trans people are fired from working at Catholic schools, or gay people, and it's crazy, and what they make teachers sign off on in these archdioceses are insane. And so she was really the huge inspiration of the beginning. And it's so ironic because after we wrote the first draft of the feature in 2020, a few months into the pandemic, my own English teacher, I'm from Kettering, Ohio, was fired for being gay, for being married to a man. And he'd been teaching there for 20 years. So I just thought that was that life imitating art incident was just such a huge, it was uncanny, and it kind of gave me the impetus to get this movie made. So it took a long time, but we finally got it made, and we're able to raise the money and get the right talent together to make it. So,
and I'll say this, and this is the one personal tidbit I'll throw in here, but I'm straight. But with this topic in general, with the firings, and like you said, it's newsworthy and everything else. Maybe it's just the environment I grew up in, but honestly, and I'll say this, and you could send the hate mail and tweets and whatever. I don't care. Whether you're gay, straight, trans, who gives a anymore? Maybe I'm just not, I'm like, if you're doing your job and nobody's getting hurt and anything, who gives a But that's
exactly,
I don't care, but I'll get off the political stance now.
Yeah. No, and to that point, actually, this movie is, I think that straight allies and the straight community, if there's a straight community, but I think they get more out of this movie than the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah.
We wrote it for straight people, for a mainstream audience, because, when you think of an LGBTQ film, I think certain images or genres pop into your head, but this is a rare LGBTQ film, and that parents can watch it with their kids. You can even watch it with your grandparents. I think it's intergenerational, and I think everyone can get something out of it. It's entertaining, and people are offended by everything these days. So
that's why I wanted to say what I said. So
yeah, but it's a wholesome film, if that if that means anything,
No, it does. Excuse me, folks. I'm eating Three Musketeers. We talk here, but you mentioned, yeah. So I just got off another recording. So fit it in when you can, folks. But you mentioned about a previous project being in film festivals and stuff like that, and this one is going to be part of Dances with Film Festival in LA, June 20th to the 30th of 2024. So that's kind of cool. But I also want to mention with the movie, you have Abigail Hawk, yourself, Catherine Curtin, and Hudson Paul and Andrea Rose Guzman. There's a cast of characters, and I say that respectfully. You get people from different walks and different avenues and everything else. Race, creed, color, the whole bit. So I found that awesome that you had all these different people, a melting pot like New York, to come together. So
exactly, yeah, it's kind of an ensemble cast almost. And we have some amazing TV actors. I mean, we have Abigail Hawk, as you mentioned, who's a series regular in Blue Bloods. Blue Bloods, they're filming actually the very last season. I think it's the 14th year.
yeah.
So, she's been on it since almost the very beginning. And we have Catherine Curtin, who you would definitely recognize from, she was a recurring character in Orange is the New Black. She was one of the security guards. She's hilarious in that. And she also has a recurring role in Stranger Things and lots of different things. She pops up in movies all the time. And and then our lead actress who plays the Catholic school teacher Veronica is played by Alexandra Gray, who's just a brilliant, versatile talent. And she was in the last season of Empire, and she's had huge guest starring roles on How to Get Away with Murder. She had a recurring role on MacGyver, and so she's done a lot of stuff. You'd probably recognize her face as well. So we have an amazing cast. And it's very well rounded. I play one of the gay dads, so I got to write a part for myself.
Damn straight.
Yes, and my husband is played by Eliud Garcia Kaufman, who he's just an amazing Mexican actor. And most of us are going to try to be in LA. Our screening time is June 27th. So if you're in LA, that's going to be at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, June 27th. That's a Thursday at 7 p.m. And it's with Dances with Films, as Jonathan said. And it's our block is sponsored by Outfest.
Yes, and I'm going to put a link to the festival, in all versions of this, so people, if they want to come check it out and they're in the area for the film festival, please do. And I can't believe I forgot when I was name dropping people involved with the film. Alexandra Drea, excuse me. Full disclosure, I screwed up yesterday time wise. I put the wrong time down on my notebook, and she was supposed to be with us. So,
she was.
Yes.
And her schedule is like crazy because she's in pre-production for a short film she's producing, and she got this it was just announced in the Hollywood Reporter, so I guess I can say it, but she's doing a development lab with Netflix on her next feature film, so that's very exciting for her. Yes. So her schedule's crazy, so she apologizes for not being able to make it, but
it's all good. Hopefully I'll be able to have a chance to chat with her at some point. I'm hopefully make that happen, but I enjoy full disclosure on the show. That was my screw up. She was supposed to be with us. And Alexandria, if you hear this, look forward to possibly talking to you somewhere down the line with everything, including this film. But back to Regarding Us. So I know this was an independent project, and it's no small. People don't realize how much work goes into putting things together. So obviously you spent time writing early in COVID and all, like you said, and it's taken a couple of years to put this project together to where we're at now. So what was it like for you as far as finding funding and getting the support and put this whole project together?
Well, the funding, I would have to say, is the most challenging aspect of independent film. So when I decided that we were gonna make this happen, I thought we could do it for like maybe like a couple 100,000, but it's ending up being it's a $500,000 movie, more or less. And we raised 300 almost $380,000 of that just with private investments, which is great. And then the other has just been small dollar donations through our fiscal sponsor, which is called the Great Griffin, the Great Griffon, and that's my nonprofit. If you want to check out the website, and we have other projects on there as well.
Give me a link for that. We'll put that in there as well too.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, but it was really challenging because I am not a millionaire, and I don't really know many millionaires. But I had one good friend who I've known a long time. He's like family, and he's been supportive of my nonprofit work, and he always told me his name is Jack Marr. He's just an excellent human being, and he's always like
Jack.
Yes, Jack Marr. And he's a veteran, and he started this foundation for Vietnam Vets for Peace. And he's just like an amazing, well-rounded guy, and he's like a straight ally as well. And he said, David, if you ever want to do a feature film, like, I'll be your first investor. And you know what? I took him up on that, and he was a man of his word. He became my first investor. And I remember we had sort of a verbal agreement a week before the pandemic started. And then the pandemic happened, and then I thought, well, let's put a button on this. But it took 2 years to find the other money. But I just started Googling like LGBTQ philanthropists, and I just started like cold emailing people. And that's how I met, the other investors. I mean, it's kind of a miracle. I've met some amazing people. Martine Rothblatt, who is a trans billionaire, and she started Sirius XM Radio. She's done so much like with aviation. She has a law degree. She's done a lot for medicine. I mean, just like Google her and read her Wikipedia page. It's like staggering. And she's incredible. And she has a nonprofit called Terrasum Media, and she's produced a few films in the past. And then we have Chuck Forrester, who's like he runs a queer publishing company out of San Francisco, and Thomas Patrick Lane, who has invested in a few films. He invested in the Whitney Houston movie that came out last year in the movie theaters. And great people. Andy Tobias, who used to work at the Democratic National Convention. And am I forgetting someone? Oh, and Dr. Marcy Bowers, who is the only transgender reassignment surgeon in the world, I believe. And she's just an amazing human being as well. So good people.
Yeah. It's important to have quality people around the project, whatever you're doing, whether it's podcasting, making an independent film like this, or you're running a country. No matter the size of what you're doing, it's important to have quality people around you. So it's good to hear that. But we talked about the casting we have such an eclectic group of people involved with the project from a casting standpoint. So obviously you jokingly said, yeah, I had to write a part for myself in there and all, which is, I thought you did wonderful with the role, and it made sense because I could see now that you said it about having a theater background and stuff, just for what your character was. Yeah. Like putting two and two together, it's like, that makes sense why it fit. So
yeah. Hopefully I'm a little better actor, because my character, he's a struggling Shakespearean actor. Hopefully I'm a little better than he is.
No, but it just fits that you had with, the Shakespeare and the theater, it just, it fits. But with the rest of the casting process for this, and obviously you're coming from a writer's perspective and a co-director and everything else like that, how hard was it trying to find specific people to fit specific roles?
Well, that's the interesting thing. I always thought the casting of this would be one of the toughest things, but it actually ended up being one of the easiest things because they're such specific roles and they're kind of niche, and you have to be a certain, type of actor, but you also have to be a really good actor, in order for this to work. And plus we have, half the cast is kids. There are two lead kids in the movie, and they're both, I mean, if either one of those roles, kind of, I mean, you need both of those to be really good actors in order for the movie to work, and thankfully we just got the best kids. We had casting director. First, we had Mary Beth Fox, who she attached the role of Veronica Alexandra, and she was our first actor attached. And then Ali and Daryl Eisenberg, Ali Beans and Daryl Eisenberg, cast the rest of the movie, and they cast all the kids. And yeah, we just got really lucky. And then Eliud, the guy who played my husband, I think he just auditioned like at an open call, like on Backstage. We put a notice out, and he just like, he blew us away, and I was like, oh God, we have to cast him. So yeah, I mean, we were just very fortunate to get the actors we did because they kind of understood the roles. And we were supposed to film in 2022, the summer of 2022, but then we lost funding. And then we had to delay like 11 days before production began, which was really heartbreaking because everyone was always all hired. We had the locations, we had the crew ready to go, and then we had to cancel. And that was a huge letdown. But it kind of worked to our advantage in the long run because, I said, well, you know what? Let's just keep the kids we have, and they can just be a year older in the movie. Like, who cares, And that was great because it gave them time to really sit with the roles and mature with the roles. And I think that was helpful. And like our lead actress who plays Isabel, who plays my daughter, her name is Andrea Rosa Guzman.
That kid was awesome. I gotta admit, watch that kid.
Yeah, wasn't she? And that was her first screen role ever. She didn't even have a reel. She had never been on TV. She had never done a movie. She had never even done like a student film or anything. She had only done voiceover for she got a pretty good job with Disney doing voiceover for an animated series. But that's it. And so like, yeah, she just blew me away, and her parents were really cool, and I was able to kind of work with her and coach her throughout the year. And so by the time she got to set, she was ready. And yeah, and Hudson Paul, who plays Kyle, I mean, that I was like, God, we're never going to be able to cast this role. But then he came in and he just like blew us away, and I love it how like that family, like they're all like blonde and they all like look so much alike, like a family.
Yeah.
Like Jacob Moran, Hudson Paul, and Abigail Hawk. And I love it because they're in such contrast to like, our family who like we're all like, so different. So
okay, so obviously I asked about the inspiration for the story and all that earlier, but obviously things change and scripts change and everything else like that from that perspective. So from the initial draft to what is on the final cut, how much of an evolution was there? And would you say most of the original ideas from the first draft end up in the final cut?
That's a great question. I mean, the draft changed so much. We had, I don't know, 20 different versions of the scripts. However, I will say that, we were always very clear with what the heart of the movie was and what the real story was. I wanted to tell this story about this, teacher who sort of like affected the community in a way, because it's almost like a trickle down effect, right? The movie starts off with Veronica, and then it sort of like, it's like a domino effect, and you see how she affects, Isabel, and then Isabel kind of influences Kyle, and so I love that how this one person can affect kind of like all of society in a way. And that's always sort of like been, I mean, I don't, even though this movie has Catholicism in it and the Catholic Church, I'm not, and I was raised Catholic, I'm not religious at all. I don't really, believe in religion. But if I have any sort of like spiritual belief, it's that, we're all in this together. We all bleed, we all breathe the same. And what happens to the least of us happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of like what my, deeply held beliefs are. And that was in the first draft. And I think that stays, and that was important to me. But yeah, like, logistics change. I mean, cut a line here, cut a scene there, cut characters out, add a character, then cut a character. I mean, that's all part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy that we were very clear with what the story we wanted to tell was before, other people got involved, because filmmaking is a collaboration,
Yes.
And I love the collaborative spirit, and I want to hear from my actors. And they say, oh, this part's not working, and then I'm like, well, let's change it, because especially for film, it's so much about just being honest and truthful, and having like a sense of who that actor is playing the role, so that's very important. And yeah, so it's a process, but I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Of course, like, you can be changing things until the end of time.
Exactly.
But it's like, at a certain point, it's like, well, this is what it is, and it's great, and I just hope I hope it reaches people,
Yeah, but the movie's called Regarding Us, so I guess, is there a before I want to dive into a little bit, would you, outside of the movie, but is there is it going to be streaming? Do we have plans for what's after the festival?
We do have plans, but we're not at liberty to say
Fair enough.
yet. So yeah,
because I had a phone call about this yesterday, so no,
okay.
in a good way. So I just want to make sure, I don't think we talked about that specifically, but yeah, stay tuned on that, folks. But
stay tuned.
Yeah, as soon as I know something, I'll let the audience know that, hey, you can find it XYZ, whatever it goes down. But
awesome.
Like I said, I'll have the link for the film festival as far as Regarding Us. You personally, cool. I found it interesting because one of my better friends and acquaintances I got from, well, actually, I should say two now that I think about it, are professional musicians. One is a country piano player who's well-known singer-songwriter and such. And the other one, she's a rock star, kind of rock country kind of deal, but she trained in classical music. Like, she's such a dichotomy and badass. But the reason I bring this up is because you play piano as well professionally. So
I do.
What's your background with the piano? Are you classically trained, or do you do mainstream? Where do you go with your music?
Yeah, I mean, I took classical lessons when I was a kid, like a lot of people do, and I really enjoyed it. And then I started like playing for friends and at parties, and I played for like my church, like growing up, and then when I went to college, I went to drama school because I always wanted to be an actor. And so I went to New York for drama school, and I don't know, like, I kind of didn't play for a whole year, my freshman year, but then like my sophomore year, like somehow people found out that I played the piano, and then they started just asking me to play for things. And so I ended up playing for like a workshop production of Company by Stephen Sondheim, which is crazy. And I was the only instrument, so I was playing like basically all the orchestra music on the piano, so that was a challenge. But then like people were like, oh my god, like, you're so good. And so then I started playing for people. Like, I started playing for all my musical theater friends for auditions, and and for events, and I played at a couple bars in New York, and just gigs, and and for my survival job, quote unquote, I guess, I teach piano throughout the city, and I play for ballet classes, and I play for a church. So yeah, so it's always something that like I've enjoyed. I don't really like, I don't know, I don't consider I always feel like I'm sort of like, I have an imposter syndrome as a piano teacher or as like a professional pianist, even though I know I am, and that's how I've made most of my money. Just because, like, I don't know, like my teacher, I had two piano teachers growing up, and the first one was like from Russia, and she was like really strict and mean, and like was such a concert pianist. And the second one, like, was the same. She went to Juilliard, and like, I don't have that kind of training, but yeah, but I love it. I think music is healing, and it's therapeutic, and I mean, like movies, music has the power to change the world, if we just listen.
So acting credit wise, I found it interesting. Obviously, you were part of an FX Hulu series and Fleshman's in Trouble, which was Emmy nominated. Also, and I got a kick out of it, and I got to know specifically because I love the History Channel, and you were part of a series called The Food That Built America. Where were you involved with that one?
Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I pretty much live on the History Channel, so.
Oh, okay. So I think it's season 3. It was a couple of years ago, and it was the Pepperidge Farm lady, and I played Henry Rudkin, her husband. Yeah, and it was really, because I had never seen the show before, but it was really interesting, like her story, because she was sort of like the underdog, and then I was like her doubting husband who was like on Wall Street, and then I had a bad accident and I like had crutches. Although they cut so much out, like we filmed so much, and then of course they cut it all out.
Funny how that shit happens.
I know. I remember I had to learn how to like walk with a crutch. It was really fun. And then there's one scene where I was like eating like, I had to eat like 7 Twinkies, because we were in competition with like Wonder Bread, and who was like, I guess like Big Bread or whatever, and we just wanted to like make wholesome, real bread, and people, and it, of course, Pepperidge Farm is delicious, and people are like, how, they were looking for her recipe, but she managed a way to keep it secret. So she was I forget her I forget her first name, but yeah, it was my character's name was Henry Rudkin, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. We filmed that mostly in New Jersey, I believe, in a few days. Yeah.
My condolences. I'm in South Jersey, but my condolences for you coming to Jersey to film. But the armpit of America, folks.
No, it's great.
No.
We filmed our movie in Jersey City.
There you go. Well, Jersey City's nice.
They have a great film tax credit, so it's better than New York's, actually. So for independent film.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and trash New Jersey too bad. But it's funny because you mentioned about and we talked about your theater background and all that. And I'm not going to break down the notes, even though you were read at the Schoolhouse Theater, which was best supporting performer that you got, and different things. And you've done TV, as I just mentioned. And obviously we got Regarding Us and a few other projects in the works as well. Being so versatile, is there a preference you enjoy doing, whether it be TV, theater, or film? Because here's the big difference, whether you talk TV, film, or theater, and we'll split it down the middle there. Obviously, and I'm not telling you nothing you don't know. When you do theater, you have that live instant reaction. Are we doing good? Are we doing bad? Whatever the case is, we get a live feeling. Where if you film something, TV, movie, whatever, it could be 6 months to a year before you get a response, ratings, critics, all that stuff. So do you have a preference in what kind of medium you work?
Well, I love both for different reasons. I mean, you definitely get that that high off of the audience in theater. But really, for me, the true high of theater is if you're in a good play, it's like you get the whole arc of the character. That you get the whole physical and emotional journey from beginning to end with not you know, you don't stop. With film and TV, it's almost like you have to be an emotional technician, where it's like you have to start and stop, and you start in the middle of the movie, then you go to the beginning, then you go to the end, and then you're in like the second act, you know. So it's all over the place, and there's a lot of distractions. I mean, for me, I don't really think of like live audiences versus, because you know, you have the crew, you know, and you can always, you know, you can always watch the crew, you know, for feedback. I mean, I think that they're very you know, clever and astute. I mean, they're the best audience you'll ever have sometimes, because they've seen, you know, they've seen everything, because that's what they do for a living. But
if you can pop
yeah,
the
for
crew,
me, it's like the starting, stopping. That's
yeah.
What's that?
I said if you can pop the crew and get a response.
Yes. And we, oh my God, we had a brilliant crew on this. I just have to give a shout out to our crew in production and post-production, actually. It was just amazing. And my producer found most of the people, Katrina Rubenis Stevens, who's like producer extraordinaire. I hope she produces many of my films in the future. And Caroline Stuckey was our cinematographer who led the crew, and I thought they did a beautiful job, you know, and I thought they could make a dollar, you know, look like 1,000. So
certainly know plenty of people like that in that field, in the film and TV world. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, which I found interesting, because I'm a reader and we're not in my astute library at the moment, but I saw that you have recorded a dozen or so audiobooks for the blind for the public library up in New York. So how in the world did you get involved with that? And
yeah, I'm trying to remember how I got involved. I started doing it about 2010, so a long time ago, and I just wanted to you know, it was a volunteer thing that I did, and I just wanted to sort of like give back, and I thought it would be nice, and you know, I enjoy reading, but I thought like it would kind of keep me literate, reading books. And I remember I auditioned with I forget what I read actually, but yeah, it's a great place. I mean, if there are any actors in New York who want to try it, you have to audition, and they don't accept everyone, obviously, but it's a great thing. You can just, I think I just called them up, and Susan Mosikowski, she since left the library, but she's the one who ran the whole studio by herself. And it was just such a great experience. I mean, I miss it. I think about sometimes wanting to go back there, because I just loved it so much. I mean, I recorded a lot of young adult books, and I recorded, I think my favorite one was either Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima, a translation of Japanese novelist. I mean, that was just a really dark, like macabre novel, and I loved it. Or I loved, it was a Larry McMurtry book, The Last Picture Show, which of course is, you know, the legendary film too. But I loved recording that book too. That was really fun. But yeah, that's just another thing that, like, if you know, you can get lost in a book, you know, and it opens a door for you, just like a movie, and you can learn something about life and other people, and you know, people read more, I don't know what would happen to the world.
it's scary when you think about it, but
I know.
But topic wise, I want to wrap with this, because, and it's a twofold with regarding us, because of, we mentioned all the different topics, such as LGBTQ plus, equality, just everything else like that. And obviously, I'm not tied in with those communities and such. And the quote hit me when I was doing my research on everything, not only with the film, but just in those fields as much as I could read anyway. And I like to quote former President Clinton from his autobiography, My Life, when he's talking about from time in office and such. And I'm summarizing a quote here, folks, but it's know what you don't know. And I have no problem saying what I don't know. So, as someone who's an advocate for the community, but also you put this whole movie together, which was absolutely fabulous, folks. If you have a chance to see it, please watch it regarding us. But I'm curious to know, as someone who's trying to educate himself on some of the topics, what seems to be the most common theme or topic that folks, and I know it's a broad question, but what is the biggest topic or theme people want to try to learn about when they are trying to have an educational conversation on the topic or topics?
Right. Well, that is a very broad question. I'll do my best to answer it. I mean, I'm just one person,
Yeah.
and as Jennifer always says, she says, well, if you talk to one trans person, you get one trans person's opinion, and it's like, none of us are monoliths, right? We're all individuals, and I think that's the point of the movie, is that like the LGBT people in the LGBTQ community are just people like everyone else. They're just trying to have a job. They're trying to get by. They're just trying to live. They're trying to raise a kid. They cheat on each other. That they get back together. They get in fights. They're just trying to live life, and they make mistakes. And I mean, I think that the unique aspect of our movie, that you hardly ever see, or maybe you've even never seen, but it's it's at the lead of the film is a trans woman who is college educated, and she's a person of faith, which you don't really associate those things with trans people. And again, it's just like we're all individuals, and you'd be surprised how diverse the community is. Just if you get to know us, get to know people as people, instead of listening to what you see and hear on the media, then I think the world would be a lot better. I know, like, all the trans people I know, they've been some of the most extraordinary, most accomplished people I've ever met, and what they go through in their personal lives, just to be who they are, is just extraordinary, and I think it's heroic, dare I say, and in the face of so much persecution. And they're just trying to get by, they're just trying to be themselves. And not that I mean, I'm not trans, so I would never speak for the trans community, but that's it. They just want to live their lives.
Exactly.
And it's like who are we harming? No one.
Sure.
Like, the media loves to have a heyday with like trans in sports and trans bathrooms, and it's just all like clickbait. It's all to get us all hating each other, like everything else.
Stir the pot bullshit.
Yeah, stir the pot. Exactly.
So,
exactly,
folks, if you're in LA, please check out the festival for Regarding Us on the 27th, I believe you said. But when it's going to be released on other platforms and such, whether it be physical medium, digital, all that fun stuff, when it's publicly known what the next steps will be after the festival circuit, certainly we'll let you know. It's definitely a film you should try to seek out and watch. But Sir, thank you so much for the time.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate it.
Hey there, Friday fans. We know how much you enjoy the movies. Enjoy grabbing your Friday merchandise and interacting with the Friday family, whether it be at conventions or during our particular watch-alongs. Well, when you're looking to get yourself masks, why not check out our friends over at Camp Blood Customs out of New York State and order your specific custom mask from any of the films. All orders are made specifically. Your needs and wants are. Make sure you find Camp Blood Customs on Facebook, Instagram, and all over social media and order yours today.
Hey you guys, this is Allie Pauline, and you are listening to Crazy Train Radio.